I believe I've only got 6 minutes for my talk. So let's go. I couldn't have gotten a better two leading talks really, both about Indigenous and Aboriginal knowledge. A little bit about myself. First, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting here on Kaurna land today, so that's something important to say. Who am I? I work for the Department for Environment and Water. I'm currently based in the Murray-Darling Basin region, and for the last probably 15 to 20 years I've worked with different Aboriginal groups throughout Australia, and at the moment I'm focusing on doing some work around water policy. Some things that I have done quite badly and learning a lot about over those 20 years is how do we not only engage with Aboriginal people, but how do we protect their knowledge? It's not there for us to use and distribute, but we need to think about using this knowledge properly. Sure, maybe I can try to move that across a bit. Is that a bit better? So, is that better? Okay, great. So today I want to very much talk taking the scary out of engaging with Indigenous people. So how many of you here are scientists? Put up your hand. Okay, great. Scientists love process. Here I'm going to help you give a process because that's what we like to do. Also, hand up if you're not with the Department for Environment or Natural Resource Management. Okay, there's quite a few of you. I've only got 20, but I want you to take one of these home because a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is on an inline portal that we have on how we use knowledge and how we protect knowledge. And if you can't access our portal because you're not a government department staff, please take this and please email me if you want any electronic versions. So, knowledge includes, but is not limited to, relationship to country. When you go out on country and talk to people, they'll talk to you about their relationship with that country. Language is very important. Culture and family connection. Symbols, stories, ecological knowledge, songs, beliefs, customs. Data. You might think of data as being some of these linkages to this knowledge, but data could be any form of media, such as photographs, videos, or archive material. So within Department for Environment, what we have a project planning tool that we've developed, and that project planning tool gives you a whole bunch of questions that you can just drop down and answer the questions. The more you say yes, the more information you get. I've got that all printed out for those non-department people here that would like to take some of this away with you, and then you can develop it in your own organisations. But what this planning tool does, it pretty much steps you through this process, what you need to consider when you're out there wanting to engage with Indigenous nations. You need to be aware, undertake your own cultural awareness training. You need to be up to date if there's any existing agreements, country plans like Ben was just talking about. There might be co-management plans, there might be Indigenous land use agreements. All these plans and agreements will usually have how that nation wants to engage with you. So they're quite a critical piece of information that you can use. A big one that you should very much be aware of is payment advice and guidelines for engaging with Aboriginal people. We're all paid here as scientists, so these guys have their knowledge. You need to be aware of how to pay for that engagement process. The big thing that I want to talk to you about today is putting in place a cultural knowledge agreement. This agreement is based around some information classification guidelines and other things to be aware of, ethical research, procurement using our Aboriginal business register that the South Australian Government has, and then being aware of other native things like the Native Title Act, the Aboriginal Heritage Act, and also in government we have a Aboriginal Employment Register. So, that's the tool. Keep it in your mind. Where can you find it if you're in the department? Very easy. We have an online portal called iShare. Go under People, go under Reconciliation, look at that engagement support. So, you need to seek permission to use cultural knowledge and data every time. I think this is quite important. Like for me, I have a relationship with one group for 8 years. If I still want to use a piece of information that I, worked with that group on 8 years ago, and they've given an okay, 6 times already to use that information, I'll still constantly go back and ask, can I still use this information? It builds trust, it builds a relationship, and it's just what you should be doing. You need to reference the information you use, and by developing a cultural knowledge agreement, this will be how you can do that. And you need to protect this information for future use. So if you do happen to go about and seek an agreement that you will be publicly publishing information, you make sure that you have a copyright that protects that information from future use as well. This is just a standard one that we're currently doing with a water allocation plan that we're currently working on with different groups. So a cultural knowledge agreement. We have a cultural knowledge agreement. It's a 2-page template. It's already there. It's gone through Crown Solicitors. It's easy to use, easy to fill in. I've got it here, so you can certainly grab a copy. Broadly, it talks about 4 main steps. So steps to follow prior to project planning and fieldwork. It states and agrees what type of information will be published. It talks about the confidentiality of your information. So you might be taking field notes, and it will have a confidential clause around that. And it provides data and information classification handling guidelines that we're used to within government, but it's at a government, across government, about public and sensitive use of data. Other considerations, permits, Native Title Act, access to land, and Aboriginal language. So they are all main considerations, and that's actually it. So that's my talk. That's where you can find it. Keep it in your mind and come and grab a copy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.